Hello everyone. I would like to draw your attention to a recent development that has significant implications for regional and global security. Last week, several news outlets reported North Korea's unveiling of a new sub. Some outlets say it is a tactical nuclear attack sub. Some outlets use the term tactical nuclear armed submarine. The term is a bit unusual, if not misleading. It is crucial to scrutinize the information presented in these reports, as some aspects may have been downplayed, potentially masking the true significance of this development. According to the reports, the sub is a modified Romeo-class diesel-electric boat, so we will start with the original of such boat, the Kriegsmarine Type 21. To give you a visual reference, here's an image of the Type 21 boat. The first thing you'll notice is that it doesn't quite resemble your typical German U-boat. That is because it has a hydrodynamically streamlined hull and conning tower. But what truly distinguishes the Type 21 is its revolutionary approach to submarine operations. Unlike its predecessors, the Type 7 or Type 9, which primarily functioned as surface ships and would submerge us for a short duration when necessary, this Type 21 was designed to operate continuously underwater. This requires a significant number of batteries, and interestingly, it was therefore not called an U-boat. The German term for this submarine instead is known as the electroboat. It's indeed groundbreaking in concept. Was it effective in practice? Not quite. The Type 21 has its fair share of design flaws. It was underpowered, its hydraulic systems were complex, and many critical components were situated outside the pressure hull, making it vulnerable to battle damage. However, the Type 21's main Achilles heel was in its manufacturing process. It was constructed in sections towards the end of World War II, with various companies from all over Germany involved in the process. A total of 9 sections were fabricated individually by different companies and then brought together to be welded in a shipyard. The idea is to speed up the manufacturing process, but these companies often lacked the experience in naval engineering. The result, only about 100 boats were completed, and only 2 of them ever served in the patrol's functions in the Kriegsmarine. They all suffer from numerous quality issues requiring extensive post-production work to rectify. Following the war, the Type 21 saw service not only with Germany but also with the US, the UK, France, and the Soviet Union in various capacity. In a twist, 1 Type 21 boats were repurposed for research, the William Bauer for the Bundesmarine, which served until its retirement in 1982. And you can actually see this boat in German Maritime Museum in the Bremerhaven today. Yet, perhaps the most enduring legacy of the Type 21 lies not only in the wartime and the post-war service, but in its design principles. So the development of the Type 21 had a profound influence on the development of modern submarines, which will eventually lead to this new North Korean boat that we see later. And here you can see how the Type 21 compares to the Type 7 and Type 9. Revell makes a very good kit of the Type 21 with all the cutout and opening, and you can actually see the 9 sections in that kit. The Type 7 and Type 9, the bottom 2 boats, look very much like a typical German U-boat, and the top boat on the top right looks more like a modern submarine. It's because of the streamlined conning tower and the streamlined hull. Now let's shift our focus to the Soviet Zulu and Whiskey class submarines. It's vital to clarify that Whiskies and Zulu classes were not direct modification of the Type 21. Instead, they were heavily influenced by that design. And in the West, there were also boats that have been influenced by the German Type 21. These submarines are known by their NATO reporting names as Zulu and Whiskey. Internally within USSR, the Zulu submarines are designated as Project 611. Now, initially both Zulu and Whiskey submarines started their service as attack subs, which are primarily designed to engage surface ships or hunt other submarines and conduct various non-strategic missions. Later in their evolution, the Zulu class underwent a transformation and became the first ballistic missile submarine. They were retrofitted to carry either one or two R-11s. We know them as Scuds. Now, some of you who have seen the Harrison Ford's movie K-19, The Widowmaker, might argue that K-19 was the first ballistic missile submarine. And to a certain extent, you are correct. The K-19, also known as the Hotel class, was indeed the first dedicated ballistic missile boat. However, the Zulus was an attack submarine that was converted to carry ballistic missiles and was deployed before the Hotels. Now, shifting our attention to the Whiskey class, initially designated as Project 613, they too began their journey as attack subs. As time progressed, they were reconfigured to carry guided missiles and were then designated as Project 644 subs. Now, the Project 644 subs are interesting design with their missiles tube mounted parallel to the ship's hull externally. Now, these cruise missiles employ inertial guidance technology integrating accelerometer, gyroscopes and computers to autonomously calculate their positions without requiring external reference to hit their targets. Replacing the Whiskey class, we have the Soviet Romeo class sub. The Romeo is an upgrade from the Whiskey in several ways. It is bigger for more torpedo tubes from 6 to 8 and can carry more torpedoes, 14 instead of 12, and it can also carry more mines. However, the Soviet didn't really make a lot of these, only about 20, because they were starting to use nuclear submarine more. However, the Romeo design lasted since the Chinese were building a lot of them under the name of Type 033 or Project 033. Eventually, more than 130 subs based on that design were built between Soviet Union, China, and North Korea. The Romeo class subs were designed back in 1950s, and so they are quite old. The last one was built in China in 1984. Even though they are old though, North Korea and Egypt are still actively using them, and China and Russia used them for training purposes. And let's now focus on the specific submarine that we are discussing, the Hero Kim Kung-uk. While sources like Wikipedia suggest that it is modeled after the newer Simpo class, the majority of the reports point towards its design being based on the Romeo submarine. Notably, the Hero Kim Kung-uk is longer than a standard Romeo. Additionally, it features fair water planes on the sail, unlike a typical diving planes found at the bow and the stern of a normal Romeo class. Fair water planes allow the submarine to rise and to sink evenly without tilting. This could be beneficial of the Hero Kim Kung-uk, where most of its armaments are vertically launched. When comparing it to a typical Romeo, the Hero Kim Kung-uk has a distinct hump behind the sail. It is obvious that it has 10 hatches, 4 larger ones and 6 smaller ones. Some experts theorize that all these hatches could launch SLBMs or submarine launch ballistic missiles, and others speculate that 4 larger hatches might be for SLBMs, while the other 6 smaller ones could be for cruise missiles. Either way, both SLBMs and cruise missiles have the potential to be nuclear armed. The primary distinction between the two lies in the flight path and the trajectories. When we refer to something as ballistic, we mean it's powered mainly at the start and then it coasts unpowered, much like how we throw a ball, ballistic. However, unlike a ball, ballistic missiles are guided, that they can use small rocket motors for control, adjustment, and path correction during the flight, and also to spin or to stabilize the warhead. Ballistic missiles move quickly in their final phase, making them very hard to stop unless we intercept it during the slower initial stages. Remember the Zulu submarines? It was an attack sub modified to fire ballistic missiles. In its time, it had to surface to launch a single R-11 missile, also known as Scud-A. This missile was similar in performance to the German V2 rockets, but only half the size. The Scud had a range of 200 kilometers only, and today's ballistic missiles can travel distance at around 6,000 kilometers on average. Modern submarines can fire their missiles while submerged, eliminating the need to surface. However, launching a missile still reveals the submarine's position due to the launch signatures, infrared heat, and visible smokes. It is also worth noting that North Korea successfully launched its first SLBM, the Pugokshong-1, from a submerged position in 2016. Pugokshong actually translates directly as Polaris, which is also the name of the American SLBM as well, so don't get confused. That missile, Pugokshong-1, is estimated to have a range between 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers, not quite up to the modern standard, but still far surpassing the modern SLBM definition of a minimum range of 300 kilometers. The smaller silos situated behind the larger tubes on the submarine could house smaller SLBMs, indeed. However, they are also likely designed for SLCM or other sort of guided missiles instead. If I were to design a boat incorporating 4 ballistic missiles and 6 guided missiles, would offer the vessel much more versatility in the mission profiles. Now, the German V1 is perhaps the most renowned early cruise missiles, while Tomahawks is a prominent modern example. Essentially, these missiles function like a small unmanned airplanes. They generate their own lift, they maintain continuous power during flight, and they can maneuver using aerodynamic surfaces. Remember the Whiskey subs that mounted guided missiles externally? There were in fact 3 variations of these Whiskey. The Whiskey single cylinder with 1 missile, the Whiskey twin cylinder with 2, and the Whiskey long bin with 4 missiles. Although these cruise missiles move at a slower pace than the ballistic missiles, they can still be equipped with nuclear warhead. It is important to remember that in the case of ballistic missile, much of their flight is unpowered, often resulting in limited accuracy without a lot of technology embedded in it. On the other hand, cruise missiles, while they are easier to intercept if detected, they are more affordable, technically simpler, and they can be highly accurate compared to a crude ballistic missile. So what exactly do we have here? The vessel is designated as a tactical nuclear attack submarine. To the moderately informed, this usually implies a nuclear power attack sub, much like the new AUKUS, the new sub that us Australians are getting, that Joe Biden highlighted as being nuclear powered but not nuclear armed. In contrast, the hero Kim Jong-uk is a conventionally powered submarine that is nuclear armed. In essence, this is a Romeo class with the capability to launch both ballistic guided missiles. For perspective, the Zulu can carry 1 to 2 SLBM, while the Whiskey can hold 1 to 4 SLCM. And these configuration carries significant strategic implication in the 50s. It is puzzling why we have accepted North Korea's labeling this as a tactical sub. When referencing the most conservative estimates, such as the Type 21 underwater range, and the verified 500 kilometers range of the Pukokshong-1 from 2016, it is clear from the map that this submarine could threaten all of South Korea and all of Japan. It will be a challenge explaining to the Japanese why this was labeled as a tactical weapon, while 10 missiles potentially nuclear tipped were to land on their shores. Analysts could have downplayed importance. It is possible that we believe that the boat does not work. We might believe that they may not be able to achieve a successful launch in combat condition. Deploying missiles from a submarine carries its risk, potentially damaging the vessel. Could the launch of the first missile damage the conning tower? Could it bend the launch tubes? Will it set off other solid fuel in the nearby rockets? Even if they eject a missile with a cold launch, there are concerns about potential damage to the adjacent tubes so that the next missile cannot launch, or whether they can evacuate waters quickly enough for subsequent launches. Perhaps our confidence lies in the ability to intercept any launches, or perhaps intercepting the boat itself, deeming it a minimal threat, or likely is that it is universally accepted that this asset is a strategic weapon, and putting a right name to it is deemed redundant. And it is possible that we have intentionally understating its significance to prevent unnecessary public alarm. Bottom line, this submarine is a weapon designed to strike land from a distance. It is said to carry nuclear weapons, making it a threat on its own, and more importantly, it gives North Korea a new way to retaliate if attacked first. While they may not aim for the USA, they have threatened countries like South Korea, Japan, and even Australia in 2017. However, a lot of unknowns remain. Do the missiles really have nuclear tipped? If so, how many? And if they don't have nuclear tip now, will other countries friendly to the DPRK help them with these weapons? What we do know is that North Korea is serious about building up their military power, even with limited resources. This submarine will be around for a long time. We can also expect North Korea to keep improving its missiles and adding more submarines like this one in the future. So anyone thinking of attacking North Korea should remember this now. There might be a hidden sub out there that could cause major problems for their allies. This submarine changes the strategic calculus. There's nothing tactical about it.